Hello, everybody. How you all doing today? My name is Mark Mandel. I have a whole new turned around setup now, so you can see a completely different view of my house. Um, my name is Mark Mandel. If you haven't met me before, I am a developer advocate for Google Cloud Platform. I work on an open source project called Agones. It is a open source platform for running dedicated game servers for multiplayer games. It runs on top of another open source project called Kubernetes. I'm particularly branded today. Actually, this is almost not deliberate. I think this is just the first thing was on top of my laundry pile. I usually am not quite this branded. Okay, but what do I want to work on today? So why don't I switch screens? So actually, let me pull this up so it actually looks. Here we go. So if I have a look at screencast, beautiful. There we go. We'll make that a touch bigger. Excellent. So this is a feature request that came through a while ago, actually March. Basically for supporting multiple ports inside a game server, which is something we actually don't do right now, which is sort of a bit of a oversight, I think, on my part from the initial design, which is okay. That's all right. We can go and fix these things. That's what we're here for. To give a example, what do I want? If I go into we're creating a game server. Here we go. Game server specification. Beautiful. Inside here, there is, where are we? Bum, 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 bum. Inside here, we have a single container. That's fine. So what we do is we specify, we can have multiple containers inside a game server. So that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Very much similar to regular pods, right? It is actually a pod specification you can use there if you're familiar with Kubernetes. So here we have our game server image. Container is defaulting to whatever one is, or if you have more, then you specify it. But we've always had it so that there's only a singular container port and a singular host port. Making the assumption at this point in time was that game servers were really only going to need a single place to connect to and then a single place to expose. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we realized we were wrong. Some game servers like to have multiple ports open. From, where are we? If we look at our actual ticket, here we go. So some UE4 dedicated game servers need access to both a game port and something called a beacon port. So I'm guessing that's information about the game server that is exposing to the outside world. So it needs that to be public to the outside world. So I figured I'd kind of start hacking on this today. I thought it'd be kind of interesting, and we'll see how far we get into it. So what I was going to suggest actually is we change the structure of that configuration to, instead of being a singular port, we instead have an array of ports instead. And I think what we can do, or we could do this as a breaking change. I think we can do this as like an automatic sort of upgrade. If you're familiar with Kubernetes, these are called custom resource definitions. It's how we're able to do things like cool things called game servers inside our YAML files. And the work that hasn't been done yet is automatic configuration to go from like one version to another. So you can see here, this is like V1 Alpha 1. So if that work had been done, I would probably make a V1 Alpha 2 and then make some automatic conversions between the two, and it would be all cool. But that doesn't really exist. But we have some other things we can take advantage of that I think will work pretty well. So there's a couple of things I want to do a little bit of research on, just to make sure that this is the way we want to go do this. All right. So first of all, I was looking at this in the YAML. So what I've done here is I've got an array of ports instead. I have a name for each one. I feel like I've got it as optional here, but maybe it should be. No, we'll leave it as optional. That's fine. It's so if you have an array of ports, you actually can know which one's which, and it becomes semantic rather than trying to remember which port is actually which, so you can put some verbiage against it. Port policy, which will default to dynamic, which basically says, hey, find an open port for me and just give it to me, essentially. So we do some port allocation already inside of Agones. You could specify then a specific host port if you wanted to. Container port, which is the port that the process starts up on, and it's going to access from within the container. And then protocol would be UDP or TCP, and defaults to UDP, which is what which is what we default to anyway. We default to UDP because that's what game servers tend to use, rather than just the singular thing. And I think what we can do is we can do some nice conversion as well from the old one to the new one, and handle that for maybe a couple of versions, and then finally get rid of it once it's gone, once everyone's flipped over. That's my thinking anyway. The only thought I had was whether this should be an array or whether this should be a map. And I don't know if YAML actually supports maps. So let's have a look at that first, because I think that would be interesting. Map? Yeah, what's a... Can you do... that's interesting. Okay, here we go. How do you define a map in a YAML file? Can you? Should you? What does that look like? Here we go. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Snake YAML, that doesn't help. Map. None of this is useful. Okay, so that doesn't work. We don't have to do this. I was just kind of curious to see if it would look better. Let's have a look to see if any one of these. Map. Root object will be a map. A nested map. Key value, key value, key value. Okay, yeah, I don't know if I like that actually. Just because then I think it's going to be harder to validate. I think that'll be probably... Because everything is essentially a map anyway, right? I mean, whereas a sequence, we can at least be kind of strict about what stuff is, and we can do some validation and whatnot. Key value pairs. Yeah, otherwise we're just doing a set of key value pairs that are arbitrary, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So, okay, we're not doing that. That's fine. Cool. All right, so I think we'll stick to this as the way to do this. Okay, now I got to remember how to do all this stuff. This is gonna be fun. This should be, if nothing else, somewhat quite interesting in that I gotta remember how this stuff works. All right, cool. What I wanted to do. All right, beautiful. So let's pop over here to my editor, and let me think. So the first thing I think we need to do is actually change the data structure that we have internally for this. And I think we keep this as a superset. Where are we? I don't want a fleet. I want a game server. Here we go. Beautiful. And this has a bunch of stuff on it, so that's fine. Actually, I did think of one small thing I want to double check as well. So hold on, let me come here. So we've got... here we go. Here's all our data. Here's our game server object. Beautiful. Here's our container, and here we have like port policy, like all this stuff. So we want to tidy this up into an object. In fact, what might even work, which I think would be nice, is I think we can even embed this. We can do some nice Go stuff that might actually make this really nice. So we'll try. We'll try a couple of fun things. Yeah, I think that might even work. All right, well, we'll have a look. Because I think we can do something like that where we've gone inline to keep the old version. Ooh, I think this might work. All right, but one thing at a time. What I wanted to also look at, since we're here, Kubernetes reference, is I want to also look at... So actually, this will be interesting. Well, I think it'll be interesting at least. I want to have a look at a reminder of how we are exposing this stuff to the outside world. Make sure I'm not trying to do something that I actually physically can't do, which I think I'm fine on. So we actually do this. So we have, okay, cool. So inside a pod, we have a pod spec. Inside the pod spec, we have an array of containers. Now, if I remember correctly, let's have a look. Container, beautiful. Each container has an array of container ports. Here we go. So this is fine. This is basically what we do. And we set up these ports. And each of these ports has a host port, which is what we set. So that's actually the port that gets exposed to the outside world. And the container port, which is the port that the process runs on. Cool. That actually is pretty much exactly what I want. That's the protocol. So that's actually the backing tech that we use for everything else. Cool. All right, I think we're gonna end up breaking some stuff, but we'll see how we go. So we'll do this incrementally, I think is the way to do this. Yes. All right. There's my port policy. That's fine. So I think, yeah, here we go. So if we have a type, what do they call it over here? It's a container port. I think we can just call it port. Game server port. Yeah, that sounds good. I like that. Or is that redundant? Maybe that feels a little redundant. No, I don't think that's redundant. Actually, it's not redundant, simply because it's specifically tied to a game server. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And inside, so game server port defines a set of ports that are to be exposed via the game server. That makes sense. Cool. And container port policy, container port, host port and protocol. I think we can actually. I think I'm gonna do this. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. See what we break. Okay, so we literally move this all into a game server port. And oop, no, I don't want container. I don't want container. Container is actually really important. Container, if you have multiple containers, it specifies which pod container is the game server, so we know which one it is. That's important. That's actually really important. So game server port, that's better. Boom, 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 boom. Protocol, blah, blah, blah. So to check that we haven't broken anything. So what I want to do is actually make this go inline, and I'm gonna steal this here. And here we go, game server spec, blah, blah, blah. Here we go, bam. Actually going to do that too, so this should be interesting. I think this will do what I want. Game server port. So we're gonna use inline. Actually, I don't think we need anything there. I don't know. Actually, I wonder if that'll actually complain at me. So this is my thinking, and I think this will work. So you can inline things really nicely in Go. So basically all the values of game server port are now inlined inside the game server spec. So in theory, this should be exactly the same as what we had previously, but we'll have an object that we can reuse into that array. So and what I've done is I've said, okay, for JSON, make sure this is inlined, right? So don't give it its own value. And I've also said a mid empty. So if somebody doesn't specify this, I don't want it to be there. And we'll see if that actually does the things I think I want it to do. I think that should work quite nicely. I can think of some stuff that already might break down the line, but we'll get there. We'll get there. All right, sip of tea. Excellent. All right, so let's see if our tests pass. Let's just run our tests from previously, and we'll see if things compile. Run game test. Nope, things broke. All right, what broke? But it's in line. It should be fine. Interesting. All right, so maybe I need to actually look at how to inline stuff properly. Because, yeah, we do this here. We do it with object meta. And those are all in line, so they should still work. Although, if you want to specify, whatchamacallit, if you want to specify a key, this should still, yeah, I think we might need to actually fix this up. Bah, that's not what I wanted. Well, in which case, actually, what I want to do is actually change this to be the stuff I actually want. So I'm not gonna fix this one here. I'm not gonna fix this one here. We'll actually need to let's write a to do here. Implement. I should say implement converting. Oops, no. Where's what I want? Here. I'm gonna write to do for myself. Implement converting from one port type to another. Okay. Now what is the actual thing that I really want? If I come back over to here. All right, so I want an array of ports. Let's create that. So now I need ports. It is an array of game server port. And I need JSON. Beautiful. We definitely don't want to limit that as empty. Now, one thing that I'm a little worried about that we'll get to in a minute is whatchamacallit, is validation that we've got on some of this stuff. But let's one step at a time. One step at a time. Ports are the array of ports that can be exposed via the game server. That all seems pretty good. The only other thing we will want to do is also have name, which is a string. JSON name, that sounds good. I made empty, all right, because we don't want it. The descriptive, oops, I should say name is the descriptive name of the port. All right, let's see how that goes. Okay, this seems okay. So I broke a bunch of stuff, which is okay, actually. I think that's a good, so what I'm going to do is also check out my B, feature, multiple ports. I'm going to, whoops, let's commit this first pass at change of data structure. Cool, cool. Everyone's being very quiet in the chat room today. Are you both listening to me and watching the Unity keynote, possibly? Considering that's on at the same time. I wouldn't blame you if you were. It's okay. That's fine. I'm not going to be sad. Cool. All right, so let's commit that. So... yeah, let's... we have a bunch of tests that are now breaking that in theory should be fine, but we'll only ever know until we actually run some tests for the old stuff. All right, so that's okay. We'll come back around to that and see if we work. Okay, so let's fix these tests. I'd like to. That would make me happy. Here we go. So this would then become... it's an interesting question. So game server port. Game server. Actually, I wonder, can I just do... no, it's not going to be happy about this, I'm going to guess. Yeah. There we go. Boop. So that's really just the change. I think everything else should be fine. I'm sure I've broken other stuff. I'm sure I just broke a whole bunch of things. Let's see what else breaks. All right, where's this one? There's that one. There's that one. Here we go. Game server spec, game server port, game server port. Boom. Yay for refactoring. Just do this a bunch of times. Why don't we copy that as a thing? Cool. Lovely. Let's rerun the test. I'm sure a bunch of other stuff broke. There we go. Lovely. Nice. Let's rerun it again. Here we go. That's coming together pretty well. I think this one, yeah. Cool. All right, let's run this test again. We'll see what happens. Yeah, that all passes. Beautiful. In fact, let's just run all the tests. Yeah, go test. Nice. Okay, that all looks pretty good. I didn't think that anything specific there would break. And I think most of that also would work too, just because where's a good example? If I look at a game server test, we should say port policy. No, game server dot. It's in here somewhere. Okay, I'm looking for an example where it actually says the thing I think it should say. That's all right. What I'm looking for is basically where it says game server and then it says dot port, the game server port. So basically here, game server port. Here we go. Spec fixture. Container. Here we go. So like fixture.spec.host port. Because it's inline, we don't have to do the full thing, which is quite nice. So all this stuff should still work. It's just the initialization that becomes a bit of an issue. Since I'm here as well, let's sort of run game servers test. Yeah, I had a feeling some of these would fail too. All right, cool. We will ignore those for now. I'm just going to ignore those for now. We'll come back around to it. I need to fix those. But there's a couple of things I want to do. The one of which is converting from one port type to another. I think that's going to be important. So what do we got right now? So we have apply defaults. So here's an interesting question: is how we're going to make this thing. What I want to do is if this is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting. I wonder. All right, so I'm going to have a game server port. And container port, if that's empty, will be 0. That's what that means. So I can basically say, and container port is a required field. So let's actually look at that for a sec. If we go into install templates, CRDs, game server spec validation, here we go, blah. Yeah, this is all going to get changed, which is a whole other thing. Container, what's required? Container port is required, exactly. All right, so right now it's required. What I want to do is basically get this working the same way it was previously, get all the defaults working, and then I'll work on making it so that we can actually use the real thing. So one step at a time. So container port is required in the current state. So this needs to be non-zero, at least in the current thing. If I actually have a look at container port, I wonder what it actually sets it to. Let's have a look. Container port, minimum of 0. That's actually weird. But it actually shouldn't be 0. It should be 1. Because 0 is a special number. Oh, same thing with host port, actually. Oh, so I should make a to-do to fix that. Can I do that in here? Well, if I write a to-do, well, actually, you know what? Since I'm in here, I'm just gonna do it because it needs to be done. Cool. Since I'm here, might as well. All right, so now I will actually know. This may break some things. We'll see. This should kind of be interesting. I'm actually kind of curious to see how this goes. The easier option would actually be just do a breaking change, but I don't feel like doing that. Let's be nice to people. We're still in alpha. We could just break it. But I would like to do this. Okay, so apply defaults. Let's do this. Ooh, excuse me. Here we go. So spec protocol. This is all this stuff here, which is actually what we don't want. I'm just with ports. If gs.spec dot game server port. I don't think I can check if this is nil. Like there's. Yeah, that's just not gonna work. Dot container port does not equal 0. That's what I think is probably gonna work. Someone has used the legacy config convert. And this should be pretty straightforward to do in that we should be able to do something along these lines, which is basically, bear with me. So we should be able to say gs spec the ports equals, we could basically just append it. So the already, like in theory, means you could mix and match, but you know, people do weird stuff, so that's a thing. That's a thing. We can make that happen. All right, so there's that, and then what we need to do is apply defaults to all of them. So for bomb range, I think this will work. For underscore port in range of the gs.spec ports. We can actually grab that. This will break some tests, which is actually fine. And actually, we will want the index, and the reason being, we want to change that value because that's not a reference. Actually, we can get rid of that. So if p.port policy is that, then that needs to be changed that way. I'm 99% sure that'll be right because they're not references, they're actual values. So we need to care about that. Same thing here. That all looks pretty good. Now the interesting question is what I want to do is actually empty the values of the old container port stuff, because otherwise it's just going to be confusing. So I'm going to experiment a little actually, because I feel like I've seen this before where we've done a port policy as a pointer, which means then that I can make sure that it's we can make sure, what's the word I'm looking for? We can check to see if it's a thing. I'm going to try this. I think this will work. I'd rather have this be not nil, and then I can nil it out. And we'll see if this works with all the Kubernetes config stuff. We'll see how this goes. Here we go. I've done something bad. What did I do? Oh, sorry. My bad. Not there. I want it to be game server port. Ooh. Can I do like a pointer here? Can I inline a pointer? Maybe. Does that work? Is that a Go thing? I'm actually not sure. See what happens. Okay, let's see what happens. Oh, true. I'll need to dereference that. Yeah, doesn't seem to complain that much. All right, this is kind of neat. Let's see how this works. This is my theory. My theory is actually that this is an interesting exploration. Actually, my theory is that I've inlined the game server port here, and but I've done it as a pointer so that I can make it nillable. So they may not have values. I wonder if things will just like explode. I wonder if you get panics trying to get to values that don't exist. I don't know. Let's see. We'll see. We'll see what happens. This is my theory. I'll run with it, and we'll see how we go. We'll see how we go. Man, it would really be easier to just do a breaking change, wouldn't it? Where are we? So container ports are does not equal nil. It's actually what we want. Then we can do that, and then we say gs.spec Here comes my dog. Game server port equals no. Hey, Zuki. You can't see her. She's just now sitting behind me. You probably just heard her. Why does that not work? No, that does work. Okay, they're not complaining about that. So then I said it's nil, assuming there's that, and then I convert it. All right, and then all of this should work according to plan. This is basically my apply defaults. We'll also do the conversion because I feel like this is essentially the same as applying defaults. Let's run the test. See what happens. All right, so a bunch of stuff's broken because these need to be pointers. Oh, sorry, that's the right syntax. All right, that seems pretty easy fix. We're currently just working the strong path, the path where things will work. We haven't yet really explored what happens if we break things, but I think this is gonna work. All right, fleet test. I actually expect this test will now fail because I've also changed my apply defaults, which is fine. Like I'm okay with that. I've changed a bunch of stuff. Yeah, see, a bunch of stuff failed. Okay, and that's nil pointers, and I'm getting all the stuff that I think I'm gonna get, which is okay because that's actually what I want. Actually, in fact, in some ways I like this because it means that with this change, I don't want any of my code touching that old legacy config. I want it only to be touching the new legacy config. You good? Cool. I'm just waiting for my wife to wander around behind me. All right. I'm actually going to commit this. All right. Switch from value to pointer. That just means I got a nice stable base. Okay. Wow, everything breaks. That's so fun. All right, let's start with this one. I'm going to apply defaults, which is actually the thing that I want it to do. Yeah, things break. Things break hard. I get 6 evs. Okay, which is not what we want. Well, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. Alrighty, let's see what's going on here. Oops, actually bring that back up. Can you back my test window, please? Fine, just rerun the test. There we go. I do not need the event log. What I want was my test window. Beautiful. All right, so where did this fail specifically? Testing. Give server test. Here we go, 161. Apply defaults. Oh, interesting. So it actually fails in apply defaults itself. Set basic defaults on a very simple game server. Okay. Where are we? Set basic defaults on a very basic game server. Okay. And oh, this has like 4 different ones in here, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. And also it's panicking on the first one. So let's actually have a look at this real quick. Where is this actually panicking? This is panicking inside game server, inside here. Oh, wait. Oh, interesting. Okay, got it. Yeah, that makes sense. So just for awareness sake, so when the game server starts up, it goes through a series of states. And what I'm doing in this line here, which is inside apply defaults, is I'm saying, okay, if any of the, well, basically if the port, at the time I only have one port, but if the port, one of the ports is port, let me try that again. If the port policy was dynamic, so basically I need a port, put the state to being port allocation, otherwise just skip port allocation step. And we don't care. We can still do that. It's just that, yeah, right now it's failing on this because it's saying that this is bad. So we can actually change this. So here is an interesting question. The question begets itself. Do we, in here, set the default to, what's the words I'm looking for? Set the default to... Do we set the default to being creating if there's nothing? Basically, do we skip the step, or do we just run through it and then the port allocation won't do anything because nothing's dynamic? You know what? Let's skip it. It'll be a little bit better. The other question I'm asking myself right now too is I changed all of these tests to use the old configuration. Should they be using the new configuration? Oh, I'm applying default, so in theory it should be fine. Something else to consider. All right, I'll come back to that in a minute. Yeah, so if we do for port in range of gs.spec.ports, if p.spec.port policy equals that, then we, no, that's wrong, p.port policy, and we can break out of this. Then we can say, actually we can just do this. There we go. That's neat. Cool. So it's creating, we set it to creating, otherwise we come through and we say, okay, if we find one that's dynamic, then we say set it to port allocation. That seems legitimate. All right, cool. That's actually kind of neat. All right, so run the test now. Something else breaked. Okay, apply defaults. Let's come back to here. I'm just going to run this one. Whoops. That's the one I want to start with. Okay, we're still panicking, which is good. We want to fix this. Game server test. It's panicking because it doesn't expect that particular protocol, which is not unsurprising. So we could actually spec.ports. It will always be port 0 because we've only got the one. Protocol. I think that's all we're testing right now. Okay, we're still panicking. Where are we panicking? Here, 166. Interesting. Why would that panic? Index out of range. Index is out of range? But there's always going to be a port. Interesting. I wonder why this is. Okay. Which one? Set basic defaults in a very simple game server. State port allocation. Very template spec, containers, name, image. The template doesn't. Oh, interesting. So let's drop this down a little so I can look at this a bit better. This here doesn't have, it has a container with an image, but there's no ports specified on it, so nothing's going to happen. We need there to be a port. So let's do that. Otherwise, because right now we're very much, if there's no ports, then there'll be nothing. And if there's nothing, then we can't specify anything and things break. Okay. So pod spec containers, pod template, game server spec, here we go. So let's actually do an array of ports. Game server port, basically, which is what we were talking about having previously. And wait, this needs a container port? Oh, boom. Container port, and we'll make it like, I don't know, 999 or something. Because that is the most basic a game server port can essentially be. The only thing that's actually required is port policy. Yeah, so that should actually work better. All right, let's run that now. Yep, lots of things still broke. What do we got? We got another panic, and health is disabled. Let's have a look. So here, same thing. I'm wondering to bet if we have exactly the same issue, which it is true. So let's just grab this from up here with ports. Here we go. Not there. Will it give me the... No. Takes out of range. Health is disabled. Here we go. Oh, the chat room's been super quiet. Or is chat not working on Twitch today? Yeah. Well, if anyone's listening, feel free to say hello. I'm going to add this. I'm just going to keep working anyway and keep talking through what I'm working through, so that's fine. All right, so that's there. All right, let's run that now. I think we'll find... There we go. Hey, everything works. All right, beautiful. That's a good start. Okay, let's run the full suite this time now. See if anything else breaks. I think there was some other stuff that was going to break. Yeah. Things breaking. Fun, fun, fun. All right, so that's pretty good. Actually, let's commit this. Fix. What's the name of the test? Lovely. Oh, there is somebody here. Mateus, wonderful. Thank you for joining us. I had to look at the screen. That's a very bright green on gray. Let me turn that a little. All right, lovely. Good to know. Good to know people are listening. Hopefully, it's. I think today's a nice chill thing. Okay, so test game server validate. This looks like a fun one. Let's see if we can see where we think this is going to break. We've made game server port here. I might switch this since I'm here. And make this ports. And make an array of game server port. Here's an interesting thing. I don't know. I actually didn't realize this until a while ago. I don't need to actually make game server port here. It's implied. And in fact, IntelliJ picks this up and says like it's a redundant declaration, so you don't need to worry about it. So we can get rid of that. Bam. Go away. Ooh. I realized something too. Hold on, let me while I'm thinking about this real quick here. Yeah, this one. Apply defaults. Just gonna drop a to-do in here. I actually need to write a test for moving from legacy to new config. Because we actually need to do that. We'll probably have some of that lying around here, but I'm probably going to end up getting rid of it at times, so good to have a test. All right, so we've switched up the port definition, which is great. Empty slice declaration via literal. Oh, you know what? That could be a nil slice. That's better. Let's see what... There's something that's dying here, but I'm not seeing it immediately. Let's see what panics. Okay, game server. Oh, it's in the game server itself. Invalidate. Oh, yeah. Fun. Okay. This is where having names on game server ports was actually going to be useful because it's going to work better for validation. Fun. Okay. Okay, but this should be pretty straightforward. This is why panics are actually kind of nice. Everything fails hard because we don't want this to happen, and then we can roll this through a couple of releases, and then basically deprecate it. We can deprecate it and then move it through. The interesting question as well is how I'm going to document this, but one step at a time. For underscore p in range of gs.spec.ports. And that becomes p.spec.hostport and p.spec.port policy. Yeah, so I'm actually pretty happy with my decision to make that an embedded pointer. Actually, I think that was actually a really good idea. I'm pretty happy with that. Now field, we'll say format.sprintf. What's my format? How's that? Format string. All right, cool. So %s dot %s. And what I will do is actually, no, that's just host port. Yeah, so host port. And what I want is p.name. There we go. And so that should actually output a nice thing, assuming the name's been set. And if it hasn't, then it'll be empty, and I think that's fine. It still reads fine. But it'll also cause people to want to have names. Names are good. Things that are semantically readable are good. All right. I think this test will now fail. Ah, passes. Interesting. Contain fields. Contains container. Oh, interesting. It passes. I thought it would not pass for some reason. Why did I think it would not pass? Validate has some causes. Oh, I see. We're just shoving fields on here, and then we're just checking to see if those values are there. Okay. That works. We didn't really change that too much. I'm okay with this. Let's give it a name. And then I'd like to make this main.hostport. And I can test that that's actually doing what I think it's doing. Yes, nice. Wait, no, that's not what I want. What is this? What is this testing? Sometimes you look at your own code and you're like, what is this doing? Fields is a range of the fields that has failed. I've specified that. Yeah, I think I actually wrote a bad test. I think what I actually wanted was that in my test, and I think I wrote a bad test. So let's fix that, and that should be main.hostport. Oh, I was like, why is that wrong? Okay, I think that's actually the test that I originally wanted, essentially. There we go. That's better. That's doing what I want. All right, perfect. Okay, so that's actually saying that we've got a bad host port config, and so like we're spitting back that that's invalid. And then we also have a set of fields. Yeah, because we're just spitting out all the fields. Okay, nice. That makes me happy. Okay, so that's add -a. Let's commit. That is fixing test. Fix. Cool. All right, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, let's run these tests again. See what breaks. We don't need to see green ones. That's all right. Oh, why did that fail? Or did it just fail because that panicked? That's entirely possible. Yeah. All right, cool. That's right. There's a red flag. So basically, it's just saying I don't know what happened here, but this definitely failed. All right, cool. Getting there, slowly. Yeah, changing things is fun. Where did this fail? I'm very sleepy this morning. Okay. Fixture.pod. All right, because it failed in here. Yes. All right. I create a singular container pod, but I want multiples. So this is bad. So most of this hasn't been too bad. So for _p in range of gs.spec dot not container ports, game server ports. Blam. Cool. Blam. Oops, sorry, that should be ports. That's better. We create a container port, and this should all be P. And then that copies that in, and that should be good to go. Let's run that test again and see what happens. I feel like it might break still again. Yeah, it is, because I think the test is going to be trying to hit up values that don't exist. Yep. Spec.ports 0.hostport. Same thing here. Let's see what that looks like. Yes, nice. Nice. All right. What did I just do? I just clicked something. I did something bad. I don't know what I did. Can you do that? What is that? Mark is plain text. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Neat. Things you learn today. Things you learn. Okay, so we've got about 9 minutes left. We had a pretty good start. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, cool. So we're testing that too. Fix. Actually I'll push this to the end. We got about 8 minutes left. Okay, cool. What's on our to-do list? I dropped a couple of to-dos around. Make converting from one port type to another. Okay, so I think I've actually done that. I just need to test it. So let's do that. So just for interest's sake, this is a common pattern here. It's this table-based testing. We write a table of a variety of stuff with some values that we want to have, and then we basically spit out on the other side. We run the test. So it literally just loops through a map with values, and we run each one inside the map, and then it sort of have a standard test. So usually it's a super nice way of doing things. All right, so let's write a new test, and we'll call it convert from legacy single port to multiple. Boom. Oh crap! All of this, I guess. That'll make life easy. So I'm not gonna have ports. I'm gonna have to a game server port. And we'll give it some values. I don't care about health. This gives me a single image. Okay, that's actually useful. Otherwise, it will fail, or it may fail. I think we have templates everywhere through. It expects to have one image in there. So let's do that. And so in here, I'll give some report. Container port of 777. We'll say host port of 777 for argument's sake. What other options we got? Port policy. We'll make it TCP. There's a way of doing this that's actually nice. Oh, can I just go? No, it's not gonna like that because it needs to be a port policy, right? Oh no. Really? Port policy is a port policy, which is a string, and do I not have a port policy of static? Here we go, static dynamic. That's wrong, exactly. That's better. And protocol. Protocol is a UDP, I want to say. I feel like that also has a core view on protocol. There we go. Thank you. We'll call it protocol TCP. Basically, I just don't want anything that is default. All this stuff is basically all the non-default stuff. So then I can be very sure that this is doing what it's meant to be doing. Okay, protocol. All of this should be expected. State should be, what is it, starting? I actually have to go look at my code to look. Here we go. Should be creating. Policy should be static. Health, I actually don't care about. In this case, disabled should be false because that's the default anyway. Okay. Now I should be able to run this. See if this works. Oh, whether I broke something. Apply defaults. Something failed. Expected and actual. Where did you fail? Health. Oh, in health? But I actually don't care about health at all. Does health get set to a default value? Actually, that's a really interesting question. Or is that required? It may not. Let's have a look. Health. Spec. Disabled should be false. Why is that? Oh, it's because it's got these other values attached to it. Otherwise, they all get set. Just going to mark it health disabled equals true then, because I don't care about it. And that will disable that. There we go. Then, oh, what did I do? I did something here. Health disabled equals true. Boom. That, because that's what I did up here too. Yep, health disabled equals true. Beautiful. That should now work because it has all these default values, which I actually don't care about for this. All right, beautiful. Okay, so that gives me that test. That makes me happy. So, okay, conversion seems to work. All right, minus A, whoops. Conversion from single to multiple ports. Test. All right, I am going to push this up. It was a good start. I'll probably keep hacking this. I got some other stuff to hack on, so I might, depending on how things go, I might bring this back on the stream. We'll see how we go. Next week, I am away, so I probably won't have a stream. I'll make sure to put something up on Twitch and Twitter just to say whether or not the stream is going ahead. I think at this rate, it's probably fairly unlikely that I'll be doing another stream on Tuesday next week, just because I'm away. I might fit one in maybe towards the end of this week. We'll see what we can do. That'd actually be really cool. I'd like to kind of keep working on this. It's been this is a fun little bit. Yeah, it's 9:58. I think I'm going to run away now. See if I can catch the end of the Unity live stream, because I think that's going on now too. And finally, yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Yeah, except for next week. I usually do my stuff at 9 a.m. on Pacific time. So basically an hour ago, like this is my usual time. Otherwise, follow me on Twitch and Twitter, and you can follow the project on agones.dev, and sort of check out what we're doing and how we're doing it. Thank you very much for hanging out with me, everyone, and I'll catch you all later.